Hi, I'm Erika Galentin of Sovereignty Herbs, and welcome to my medicine gardens. Cycling through the equinox into the autumn harvest gardens is a little bittersweet, you know. The vibrancy of the season is shifted and is kind of birthing forth all these seeds and fruits, and we're into full harvest swing now with a lot of the medicinals as well, and really the putting of the gardens to bed is upon us. And it's been a really interestingly dry growing season this year, drier than I've ever remembered it. The woods are dry, the soils are dry, and so it's just been a different kind of landscape this season. So speaking of beautiful fruits, I thought I would kind of start this tour of the gardens off with a look at some of the awesome edible fruits we have currently ripening in the gardens. For those of you who have watched a previous video about Passionflower, this is what the fruits look like. It's just now starting to get ripe, and they are a bit sour, but nonetheless still pretty tasty. This is cool. This is just the giant Solomon seal. It's definitely not edible, but it definitely is very good looking, that's for sure. And here we have just now starting to ripen and pop open are the seed pods of the butterfly weed, also known as pleurisy root. Gorgeous droplets of water. Just so beautiful. One of my favorite seeds to start collecting this time of year. This is Rosa virginiana, or the Virginia rose. And those are some big, burly, spiky looking fruits. And it's really interesting is that, they have these spikes or hold on to these spikes until they're actually purely ripe. So, stay away kind of until they're ready to disperse their seeds. But these definitely make a wonderful tea that's really, really high in vitamin C. Lovely immune tonic, those fruits are. And speaking of red fruits, we have the Spicebush berries also really coming into fruition here. Also known as Appalachian allspice, the Spicebush or Lindera benzoin is definitely a favorite of these gardens for sure. These tiny fatty berries, both the outside and the inside are edible together, making a delicious combo. It's oily and spicy and very flavorful. It tastes like home. So speaking of fruits, we did actually finally get a rain as well, and the garden as well as the surrounding forest have just been popping with all kinds of crazy looking mushrooms, most of which I have no idea what they are. I just really enjoy looking at them and taking photos of them. But one in particular that I have been collecting this year is the turkey tail mushroom. This is Trametes versicolor. And, fuzzy on top, a lot of little spores on the bottom. Can be boiled as a tea, as an immune tonic through the wintertime. But just make sure that you are correctly identifying your mushrooms before you harvest them and take them. Because as we all know, you can get into a lot of trouble if you don't know what you're doing. Okay, this is really exciting. This is like the super, punk rock star of the gardens right now. This is a Monarda punctata, also known as Horsemint, and I'm really delighted because this is the first season I've actually had it really successfully grow in the garden. So putting on a beautiful show right now with those pale yellow flowers and those little tiny polka dots. And, almost just as cool looking as the flower itself are these amazingly cool pollinators that happen along and just really have a very interesting way of kind of just getting up on in there to get that nectar. It's quite the combo, that black and white stripe with blue wings and these crazy polka dotted flowers with pink bracts, and it's all just wonderfully, wonderfully wild. And this here is New England Aster. So this is Symphyotrichum novae-angliae. And yeah, I mean, there is really no kind of Equinox garden without the New England Aster. And in fact, one of my dear friends and colleagues, Jim McDonald, is an herbalist up in Michigan, speaks very highly of the flowers as a really wonderful respiratory tonic. And although I've really not used them in this way, I've only really had them kind of decorating the landscape and providing nectar for pollinators. I have tried a cup of New England Aster tea, and it does taste quite delicious. Speaking of really cool purple flowers, this is our Lobelia syphilitica. Not technically medicinal and most likely kind of toxic, but nonetheless, just these really super sexy flowers that it puts out every year. Also a favorite native plant. Gets lots of pollinator visitors, and I can see why. And this is Stoneroot, Collinsonia canadensis, the root of which is rock hard, and it is used medicinally, kind of even in modern American herbal practice. Really cool flowers. And this here is Yerba mansa, and this is actually native to the Southwest and somehow manages to survive here in the holler in Ohio. I have no idea how this is happening, but it's really flourishing, and I love it for its amazing aroma and just for its unusual presence in my gardens. But it also has a long medicinal history. So the last amazing plant in the medicine gardens I want to talk about is Canada goldenrod, Solidago canadensis, which is currently in full pizzazz all over the place around these parts. What's really interesting is that most people tend to blame this beautiful plant for allergy season, but in fact, it's not its fault. It is not a wind-borne pollen. It's actually a pollen that is carried off quite happily by all of the bees, especially the honeybees that rely really heavily on the goldenrod bloom at the end of the season to get their colonies ready for the winter time. So, really important food source, nectar source, protein source for these really awesome characters, the honeybees, and lots of other native bees and wasps and ants even. I've seen ants on them. And it definitely is a prolific species, really loving to grow in kind of colonies where it sends out its roots and sports itself all over the place. But there ain't nothing like seeing a full field of goldenrod, especially when you get some of that purple New England Aster in there. Just gorgeous. So Canada goldenrod is a medicinal species with a really, really long tradition of use. And I use it in my clinical practice to help support the respiratory tract, the urinary tract, and even digestion. Well, thank you so much for joining me today on this little autumnal tour on the eve of the equinox. Be sure to check out some of the links I mentioned in the comments, and I hope that despite everything that's going on these days, we're all finding moments of joy. So here's to more moments of joy during the harvest season. We'll see you soon.